Hey guys, this is Anon, and today I have the notorious, infamous, whatever you want to call it, the Tier 9 American tank destroyer, the T95. This tank certainly creates a lot of conversation in the game. And it's not a tank I even necessarily enjoy, but it's always heavily requested, so I thought I'd throw a little gameplay out there, treating it the way I feel it needs to be used. For me, this is the tip of the spear. This tank needs to be in the front or holding a line, whatever you need to do, and sometimes that comes in different ways, but the incredibly poor speed is something that makes it really difficult to play in the right way, and it causes a lot of players, in my opinion, to mishandle it, because you end up in situations exactly like this. I'm doing what I think I should be and driving towards what I assume is going to be the front, and it's pretty obvious right away that the front is not going to be where I intended it. If you sit around and wait for stuff to happen at this point, you're going to find yourselves either behind or with your gun not even in the battle at all, which is even worse when you have a really good gun that can really change a battle. So immediately I'm going to turn and drive straight at him because I've got to try and get as close as I can to the action. It's not a tank you necessarily want to snipe with, even though it really does handle fairly well for a big gun, but still, you end up in these situations where you just drive around and a lot of times and can't get your gun in the battle at all. So positioning is really important, and reading the map of what you think is going to happen is incredibly important. Since they didn't go the way I thought they were going to, I figure they're instantly going to be on the other side, and that's why you turn around and try and get that, basically by doing an about face, you can become the front if they continue to circle, and that's really what I'm hoping happens. I've got tanks popping up on my left, and I take that big shot, but I really wanted to get rid of their T95 because it gets a big gun out of the way. Unfortunately, that 704 is able to put a good shot into me, and that's something you have to be careful with as well. I don't want to shed a lot of those hit points, but now exactly what I wanted to happen has happened. They're all in front of me. The number one thing you have to do in this tank is keep the red tanks in front of you. If you get flanked, you're in a lot of trouble unless you have help. But that's why I'm kind of nestled into this corner, is I've got protection to my right, and now I can really see everything in front of me. And you can see in between every shot where I'm reloading, I'm constantly wiggling this tank. I use a lot of med packs to keep those tracks healed as much as I can if I'm worried they're aiming at me, because you have those obvious weak spots of the cupolas and the underplate if they have heat or good APCR. So just by wiggling that around, you bounce so many shots, and this is why you want to be in the front. Just bouncing tons and tons of things because it's really just a wall of armor. This tank is perfect for this role. It just, a lot of times it's very difficult to get into that position. So I'm okay with being at a spot where I'm just going to absorb shots and draw their attention. I mean, at any point in time during this game, I've had 4 or 5 tanks shooting at me, which means they aren't shooting at my teammates. Even if they're penning 1 out of 5 shots, I'm still able to really take those away from my team, and I've got a good hit point pool to kind of work from in that way. So now we've started 2 down and worked it back and are now up by 3 tanks just by putting myself in a position to be that wall at the front line and absorb shots and draw attention from my teammates. And that's, in my opinion, the number one thing you have to do in this tank, and it's just a matter of figuring out ways that it's going to work, and being really map aware to kind of have that, I guess, sixth sense of what is going to happen in the battle and make sure you can have enough time to get in a position like that. So lots of damage, obviously going to be a huge steel wall on that. You can also see I don't play this tank very often. This is an anniversary battle, and my next one is actually an anniversary battle too, so these are 3 months apart. I think I pretty much only play it on the anniversary games, but usually when I do, it'll cause me to pull it out of the garage for a few battles and just kind of see what happens. Okay, so totally switching here. My team calls left on Falls Creek or that west side, which is normally exactly what I want, but that's really difficult to do in a T95, so I'm just kind of trying to make sure I can anticipate what's going to happen in this battle. As my team sets up and they aren't spotting anything, it makes me very aware, and also based on the team matchup, that the red team probably isn't going to go that direction. So just like I was talking about in the other battle and wanting to be the tip of the spear, I'm going to roll into this nice and defensible position where I can sit on the other side of a bush and also have some hard cover, and essentially turn around and make myself that front again. If I just keep rolling, it's much more likely I'm going to take a shot in the back trying to get to any kind of position. The problem with this situation is you don't want to have your entire team roll away from you, because if you get rushed, you'll be in trouble. But since I have an E100 with the same kind of idea hanging to my left, I know I at least have enough cover that if they roll out exactly like this, I can take shots and get back. That was a terrible luck as far as RNG is concerned on that shot, but I'm instantly doing exactly what I intended to do, and now I'm protecting essentially the entire flank of my team from any of these tanks. They can't just roll around free reign and get shots on them. It's still going to be a lot of waiting because I kind of know what's going to happen here, but I at least can create that wall and protect my team, which this is a tank destroyer that's not necessarily going to be a huge aggressor at all times. When it's top tier, and you can get it to the front, it can be aggressive and roll forward as long as you have stuff supporting your back. But a lot of times it's going to be much more of a defensive kind of tank because you just don't have the speed to roll around. So, so that's, again, always something I'm kind of keeping in mind with this tank. And like I said, I know it's really hard to play well, so I'm just going to stay aware and keep all these tanks in front of me. But my major role is guarding this little corner right here that I'm aiming at. Anytime some tank wants to start to push towards us in that direction, I can go ahead and pop out and take that shot. I roll back a little harder now because that 183 is starting to show up, and he's a tank that can pen me a lot easier in the lower plate. So I'm just gonna wait and try and, again, pop anything that comes out. My mediums have gotten really aggressive with a lot of tanks there. It's not necessarily the best play, but it does draw them out, so it gives me the ability to go ahead and take a couple shots into them here as well, just because they aren't paying attention to me because I'm not fast and zipping around the field. Sometimes this tank is forgotten when it's not on the front, which can be really dangerous to do because it's a tank that's real easy to conserve your hit points on because you have the armor, and tanks tend to get frustrated by shooting at you. A lot of times they'll kind of let you alone until the last tank. So as long as you can keep yourself in a safe position, working along the borders or nestled in between hard cover so you can't take crossfire, this tank can do really well kind of in that sense. So we were down for a second, but then we turned the tide by 2 tanks really quickly. These 2 E100s are starting to make me a little bit nervous because my E100 is in there. I'm just being careful that the Jagdpanther to my left, or Jagdpanther, can't shoot me as I roll forward, but after he takes a shot and wiggles a little bit, I decide that's enough, so I'm going to go ahead and push these 2 E100s. And again, this is where it's difficult because I can't just instantly spring on them. But I can get there fast enough to at least make them consider. The E100s aren't terribly accurate, so they're going to have to take a long time to aim at me to have a shot at making it. So that's probably why, again, they're kind of not paying as much attention to me as they should, and working towards my teammate. So it lets me come in and just kind of farm some damage with those big 640 average shots that'll really farm away, and with some pretty good DPM in general. It reloads quick enough for a tank this size that lets me go ahead and kind of roll in here. So again, and a lot of times this is when a T95 driver will shut it down. We're up by 3 tanks against a slow moving tank destroyer that's quite a ways away, but instantly I'm going to start rolling that direction because that's another big gun that if you get it up against a corner where it can't be flanked, it can be really dangerous. It has the ability to one-shot a lot of the tanks that are left. So even though it's slow and painful, I'm going to go ahead and just roll that direction. I know a lot of people talk about the T95 a lot and say it's really obsolete in Blitz, and I don't necessarily disagree with that because the fast-paced play style that really lends itself towards Blitz, but I think it really can still have a good place on the battlefield as long as you're playing it the right way. It works well on these smaller maps. Once you get it in large maps, I 100% agree that it's, you know, the roll on it is largely diminished. So there's a reason it's not one of the most popular tanks to drive. But a lot of people still want to go through this grind and get to the E3, which is a little bit easier to play, I think. So it's still important to play it well, and there's so many ways to have big games in this, and it honestly is a pretty good finisher in kind of a 1 versus 2 or 3 situation. Again, it's all about positioning though, but if you can keep it to the point where you can keep all the guns in front of you, there really is a lot you can do with it. So again, this is why I pushed all the way through, because I had to come up and take a shot because he was able to kill the E100, and right here it's likely he would have been able to get the E50. So luckily our 183 rolled in and finished it up, but that's why I kept moving in general. So very odd tank. I know it's not the most riveting gameplay ever, but still something that's good to get a little bit of examples in on, because I know a lot of people struggle with it. So if you enjoyed this video, as always, please subscribe on YouTube, follow on Twitch. This is not a tank I'm going to play very often on Twitch, but you never know if you catch on the right day. So thanks a lot, guys.